Hey siblings, have you ever felt like your drawing looks flat? Do you struggle with creating depth in your drawings? Or perhaps having difficulties in semi-realism? If yes, then you probably need value study. Don't just take my word for it. Professional artist and full-time art god Coax Illust suggests the same thing. I'm sure a lot of you already know who Coax Illust is, but if you don't, he's a Korean artist and YouTuber, and his works are just amazing. Today, we're going to learn value study from his video. Value study is the exploration of the range of light and dark tones. If you look up value study on Pinterest or Google, you will get grayscale or black and white pictures. That's because rather than colors, value focuses on the volume, depth, and dimension in an artwork. Coax Illust recommends looking for simpler references to follow. Rather than photographs, he suggests 3D models or statues, something that has good figure and is not complicated. You can even go with some simpler shapes like cylinders or cubes or circle, but keep in mind to look for something with clear shadows. Since Coax Illust is using a rather detailed reference in his video, I also want to try using a more complicated reference such as this one, but I have compiled some references, including simpler ones, in my Pinterest board if you want to check it out. If your reference is not grayscale, open filter and pick grayscale. You can even edit your reference if you feel that the shadow is not clear enough. Remember to focus on the big shapes instead of the details. Coax Illust recommends squinting your eyes from time to time when you're looking at the reference, so all you see are the big shapes of the shadows. Or, I don't know, can you guys blur your eyesight on command? Because I have that ability and I don't know how I learned to do that or when. Human bodies are so weird. Or you can just use Gaussian blur. It's pretty much the same. It's better to draw side by side with your reference so you can get a one-by-one comparison. This is also so you can practice shapes and negative space. So it's better if you use a landscape canvas. I use 3000 by 6000. Please keep in mind that your painting might turn out pixelated if you use a small canvas size. Coax Illust is using a default round brush in Photoshop, but I'm going to use pencil graphite in Ibispaint because it gives a similar result. You can use whatever brush you like, but make sure it's not textured because it's harder to shade with. Now the important thing to keep in mind is you should not sketch for this study. I know sketching is like the most important thing in an artwork, but sketching has a tendency to add details. And we don't want that for the value study because we have to focus on the big shapes. Pay attention to the negative spaces when you paint. Do not zoom in too much, which I know is hard because I'm the type to zoom in a lot, but try to avoid it in order to see the big picture. I might zoom in on the video editing so you can see the painting clearly, but trust me, I'm not zooming in on the actual process. Trust me, bro. Coax Illust said in his video not to pick color from the reference. You have to try to eyeball the correct value. It's okay if it's not too accurate. He also said not to pick the value from the color wheel when you're shading, but instead use low opacity brush to overlay the dark color to the base and pick the resulting color. I don't know why he did this exactly, but from my observation, this helps you to create mid-tones, which are important to create dimension. Honestly, this is kind of hard to do because sometimes I need darker shade and I have to get it from the color wheel. Pay attention to your pen pressure as you shade. Don't put too much pressure on your tablet or screen when painting delicate shadows. If you have difficulty controlling the pen pressure, adjusting the brush opacity will help. But trust me, the more you practice, you get the feel of your pen pressure and will control it unconsciously. For facial features, avoid sketching or drawing small shapes. We are avoiding details as much as possible. Instead, focus on the shadows around those features. By doing this, you can understand the intensity of shadows and how they transition from dark to light or vice versa. I'm actually struggling to paint the hair because it's quite detailed, so please pick out simpler references if you really want to focus on value study. I picked this one because I hate myself sometimes. Coax Illust encourages you to time yourself after doing a couple of studies to see how well you grasp the values. But I want to take it easy and enjoy the painting process, so I didn't set up a timer. I'm kind of a slow artist too, because seriously, this is such a chill practice. I actually enjoy doing this a lot. By the way, you can use smudge if you want. Again, this is not coming from me. This is coming from Coax Illust. But I don't really like smudge, so I never use it. Personally, I think it's it's better not to use smudge tool because your painting becomes too smooth afterwards and it's harder to see the midtones. Your painting doesn't have to be 100% similar to the reference, just focus on the value. Make sure the value is not too different from the reference. Also, again, don't focus too much on the details, even though I kind of did. The purpose of this study is to create depth and dimension to your painting to give that semi-realistic look. Seriously though, I really encourage all of you to do this value study. It's chill and fun, and you'll get better at value and semi-realism. Another great artist who encourages value study is Samdoesarts. I'm pretty sure all of you know who he is. He did a video about value study and its importance. But he used a photograph as a reference instead of statue like Coax Illust did, and implemented his art style in the study. So I thought it would be fun to do as well. There are a lot of grayscale photographs on Pinterest, so it shouldn't be hard for you to find a reference. Again, make sure the references have clear shadows. Sometimes your painting doesn't look good not because you suck at art, but because you have a bad reference. I'm collecting references for Furina from Genshin as well because I will be drawing Furina, or rather, Focalors, because I just finished the newest Archon quest and I'm still emotional. It's like having a warm cinnamon roll in your hands, but it fell to the ground and somebody stepped on it. Yeah, that's the feeling. I wanna try skipping the sketch like I did with the statue, because if you watch Coax Illust, sometimes he skipped the sketch and went straight into painting. To be able to do that is one of my bucket lists. Having said that though, I don't think this goes well. I'm actually terrified of my own creation. Oh god, oh lord. Okay, you know what? I give up. I cannot continue without having to sketch first. Also, I'm going to use my own style instead of realism for this one, so having a sketch is a must because I am nowhere near Coax Illust level. In my reference, there are some shadows that are almost pure black, but it might look too harsh in my painting, so I will pick dark gray instead. This, however, depends on the nuance of your painting. If you're going for a dark or mysterious look, using pure black might enhance the visual, but I'm going for a mellow, slightly dramatic look for this painting. I actually enjoy rendering faces the most, but I will do that later because I always ran out of steam after rendering the face and got lazy to render the rest. Rendering the hair is very challenging for me because in the photo reference, the hairstyle is very different from Furina. So I turned her references into grayscale to make it easier for me to render. Don't get me wrong, Furina has one of the prettiest hairstyles in Genshin, but boy, it's also the hardest to draw. Because this side of the painting is dark, the hair shouldn't have that many details. But like, Furina's hair is white. Surely it still has some details even though it's dark, right? Alright, I have done one side of her hair, but I shudder at the thought of having to render the other side. So I will make a selection, copy, paste, flip, and then by using filter, we got the other side of the hair, but lighter. Ibispaint has a lot of filters you can use, so you don't go batcrap crazy during rendering. Moving on to the face. We already applied clear shadows beforehand, so we don't have to spend much time and effort on rendering the face. All that's left is to paint some details and smooth things out. Make sure to consult your reference for this stage, because the painting might lose its definition if you went too overboard with the rendering, especially if you're using the smudge tool to blend. I'm always painting eyes very much later in the painting process because eyes are usually quite detailed, especially Furina's. They're really cute though, they have water droplets on them. Because Furina has different colored eyes, I'm trying to make sure they have different values. One eye is darker than the other. I think it would look more natural if the water droplets had gradients instead of a flat color. Flat colors look fine in anime style, but they look unnatural in semi-realism. I also have the tendency to make the eyes look scary, so thankfully one of Furina's eyes is covered by her hair. Highlight is as important as the shadows in grayscale painting to create contrast, especially if your painting has dramatic lighting. I will also add some light strands of hair so it looks more detailed and natural. Now some of you might be asking, Fong, what if I want to color my painting? Or something like that. First of all, why would you? You can leave the painting as is. Grayscale is beautiful. Embrace the monochrome. But if you really want to, there is something called glazing. It's basically adding color to grayscale painting. Coax Illust actually has a video talking about it in his channel. According to him, you would need to utilize image adjustment features such as tone curve, color balance, levels, blah blah blah. The thing is, Coax Illust is using Photoshop, where the adjustment features are a lot more comprehensive. Ibispaint also has a lot of filters, but some of them are paid only, including the tone curve and levels. I tried to use blending modes instead, but yeah, it did not work out. But it doesn't mean you cannot use blending modes. I've seen someone do it before. Wait a minute, I think Sam has done it before, and the results are amazing. I did not have any success with the blending modes, so I'm going to move to Procreate and follow along Coax Illust to color this. Their adjustment features are not as comprehensive as Photoshop's, but at least the tone curve and levels are free. The first thing he did was use lasso tool to separate the painting, so the face, the hair, and the outfit are in separate layers. However, since I'm afraid to screw this up, I'm going to copy-paste my selections so I still have the original underneath. And it's fine if your selection is messy, I know mine is. You can always erase the excess parts later on. Oh, and one thing to note, if you're using pitch black to shade the grayscale, it might be harder to apply color because you cannot overlay colors on top of pure black. So please keep that in mind. First things first, I will use color balance to get the skin color. You can switch between midtones, shadows, and highlights in color balance. After that, I'm using curve tool to add more dimension to the color. I'm not going to go into much details because I'm still figuring things out, but I will create a separate video for this once I get the hang of it. I will leave the skin and move on to the hair color. I feel that it's better to apply colors to the overall painting first and then come back and fix your mistakes. It's much quicker and you can see the overall colors by doing so. I will use blending modes to fix the skin and add some color to her makeup. I will not be going into details about this, but basically, multiply is to add shadows, overlay is to add lighter and saturated colors, add is to add highlights, and color is to add more colors without affecting the shadings. These are the blending modes I typically use. Skin is really tricky to color with the glazing method, for me at least, because if you're not used to it, the colors look really artificial, and it's usually far from what I expect. That's why I usually use dull colors instead of grayscale because it's easier to overlay the colors on top. I think it will be more natural to add some of the skin color to the hair. Oh yeah, this is so beautiful. I always love blue and pink combination. Aside from the 4 blending modes, I also use screen. Screen is basically for highlights also, but not as glowing as add. This is optional, but I merged the layers to repaint some of the areas and add some details, mostly on the face. I know this looks redundant, but I will not be able to sleep at night if I don't do this. Oh, and by the way, I added some ocean texture to her hair and clothes. It looks really pretty. I mean, Focalors is the archon of hydro, of water, and Fontaine is literally surrounded by the ocean. The painting is pretty much done, and I never know how to do outro. Do value study. It's fun and educational. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't played Genshin Impact Archon Quest 4.2, play it. Play it now. Bye!